Man, this is so fucking confusing. I don't know. I still feel a little bit like I need to jump in on this. You know, I would like to make $22 million, right? I would be into that. My understanding is from the movie Trading Places. Well, my understanding is from the movie Boiler Room, which I was looking at clips of today. Yeah, so I feel like I should. My impulsivity brain is telling me to like jump in on this and trying to get in on the next artificial meme bubble that they're doing, but probably that's not going to end well for me. I will probably just end up losing everything I have, which is not much, to be clear. To be clear, it's just gambling. Well, and that's the funny thing too, where it's just like, oh wow, these people are playing it like a casino. Can you believe this? And it's like, it is a fucking casino. Yes, I can believe it. This is like if you get to if you have a certain level of like resources, this is all it is. And it's just like, well, when you when Reddit nerds do it, then it's like gambling and a casino. But like it was always like that, always has been. Yeah, it's that meme. Talking about memes. Janimus, if you're gonna invest, go into an ETF that pays dividends. It will grow slowly and pay out a small percentage each quarter. Boring. No, thank you. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm more talking about just like a really low investment with a high reward taking place in like a couple of days. That's kind of my... If I could choose, if I was going to do it, that's what I would rather do. Yeah, well, that was the thing, right? At the beginning of this whole crisis, at the beginning of the crisis, the coronavirus, when the stock market looked like it was collapsing, they just pumped like what $200 trillion into the stock market to just keep it afloat artificially. Didn't they do that? They were just like, oh, here's $100 trillion or whatever. Like what? What is that? How does that make sense? Can they do that? And you know what they did? You know what they did, folks? If you watch this stream, you know exactly what they did. What did they do? It involves a computer. What did they do with the computer? They changed the numbers. One could say they changed the numbers in the computer. Yeah. Cops are a cult, that's right. We had the spreadsheet was saying one thing, and we just went in there and just threw another trillion in there. We just increased the size of the account. That's right. That's exactly what they did. They were like, oh shit, that account's getting a little low. We're just gonna boop, boop, doop, boop. There we go. Added in another trillion there. Go to town, guys. This is definitely a very good system. This is definitely a very like good system that makes sense. It's fair. Everyone can kind of use it in the same way. Yeah, I know. And if someone does donate 200 bits, you can hear the famous words. You can hear the famous words of Ben Bernanke. You just toss a few zeros in there. What a cool system. Let's take a look at Andre Demise's thread on this.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Let's hear it.
There we go. Thank you, Anus Beard, and thank you, Ben Bernanke, for explaining that so eloquently. Yeah, now that the plebeians have bankrupted a hedge fund, it's time to change the rules. That's right. And these fucking billionaire vampires are gonna get bailed out, aren't they? They're gonna lose their $1 billion because some Reddit nerds outthought them. And then they're gonna be like, government, you have to change the numbers back now. Come on. And they're probably gonna do it. They are probably going to change those numbers back. I kind of like this angle. This new camera angle situation is pretty cool. Is it jarring to have the chat jump around on different sides and stuff? I'm kind of into this. Okay, so Andre's got an explainer on this. I kind of wanted to hear. I wanted to check this out.
So what the fuck is going on with GameStop? So it turns out there's more than one way to lose your shirt at GameStop, and Wall Street fucked around and found out. This is actually hilarious to me. So most people think that playing at the stock market means that you buy shares low and you sell high, yada yada yada, you make money, which is true, but there are multiple ways to make money trading. One of those is what's called a short call option. So I can't get into all the intricacies, but I'll say that a short call option is selling somebody else the option to purchase those shares at an agreed upon price within a certain time limit. So what the fuck is going on with GameStop? So it turns out there's more. So let's say I've got shares in a company called, I don't know, Stamegop, and they're worth $50 right now, but I think that within a month's time they're going to drop down to, say, $25. But then there's somebody else who believes that the stock is going to rise above $55. So we create an options contract where that person has the option to buy the stock from me at $55 per share at any point within a month's time. And the cost of that options contract is $3 per share. So since I have 100 shares to sell, he purchases the option at $3 per share. Therefore, I make $300 right off the top. Easy peasy, right? Oh, okay, so here's where things get a little bit hairy. As the seller of that option, I'm making $300 off the top. And if the stock doesn't go up in price, I'm okay. But if it does go up in price, I'm fucked. So let's. Why? Because, I don't know, if that stock like doubles or triples or quadruples or goes up like 8-fold in a month, then the person who purchased that option is going to exercise that option. So if my $55 stock is now like $1,000, that means I have to sell that stock to the person who purchased the options contract for $55 per share, which means that's $100,000 in stock that I'm selling for $5,500. And once you add the, I don't know, $300 profit that I made from selling that options contract in the first place, on paper, I've just lost $94,200. Now, this doesn't happen all that often because stock values don't fluctuate like that, usually, not within such a short period of time. So a bunch of people on Reddit were able to find out companies that had short positions in GameStop. Hedge fund companies, the fucking scum of the earth, absolute parasites. Why? And what hedge fund companies love to do is use their short positions to exert what's called downward pressure on company stock prices. So a retail company like GameStop, which is in distress, like almost all retail companies are in distress because we're in the middle of a pandemic, has seen some downward pressure on their share price. And when you have a bunch of hedge fund companies that are taking that short position, i.e. expecting the share price to fall, that indicates to the rest of the
What's
market,
up, average scum?
Hey, hang on a second, this company might actually fail. Let's all get on the action. And what oftentimes happens when companies are seeing their share prices being driven farther and farther and farther down is that larger companies like, I don't know, Bain Capital, like private equity firms, come in and snap them up on the cheap. But the Reddit edgelords were not having that. So a slew of investors from a trading subreddit did the exact opposite. They actually dumped money into the stock to inflate its value. And what hedge fund at the beginning of the year, GameStop was worth about $20 a share. At the end of trading on Tuesday, the 26th of January, it's worth about $148 a share, which causes problems for the hedge
And now it's higher,
companies
right?
Because a lot of the money that they use to play this game is not theirs. It's borrowed money. That's called leveraging. So you come into this game with a combination of investor money and credit, And the idea was that you're going to make money off the falling of this stock's value, but instead it went the opposite direction. Not only are you not making money, you're ass out. You actually owe people money. And for a company called Melvin Capital, it was fucking catastrophic. They had to call in for $2.75 billion in investor help to bail their asses out. And it doesn't stop there. The Redditors have been doing the exact same thing with AMC, that is the theater company, and with BlackBerry and Bed Bath & Beyond, which is hilarious to me at least because they're exposing the 3-card Monty game that is Wall Street and The Ringers, which is business news media. At the beginning of the year, none of these suit-wearing motherfuckers accounted for the fact that Redditors could meme multi-billion-dollar hedge funds into possible insolvency. And on the other side of the coin, some of these Redditors have made literally millions of dollars off of this strategy, which is exactly why I'm never going to recommend that anybody try to do this, because
this is probably good advice.
Lose your shirt. You could literally fucking lose everything. Because when the share value of these companies comes back down to earth, and at some point they do have to come back to some sort of like reasonable, insane level, then anybody who bought into this at their inflated price is going to take a paper loss. I mean, that's just the reality of it. But the important lesson here is that they've shown that none of this is real, like the financialization of companies, the outside investing, the private capital, all that stuff, the hedge firms. It's bullshit. These hedge fund companies are basically depending on GameStop to sicken and slowly die over the course of this pandemic, and what the Redditors instead is almost like shoving a grenade down a vulture's throat. None of these suit-wearing
shoving a grenade down a vulture's throat.
And they will expire soon. They will be like 8 or 9 times what they were in the first place at that original roughly $20 per share, meaning literally tens of billions of dollars on a lost bet. So for the Redditors playing this game, good on you, you mad lads you. Hope you know what you're doing. I hope you're not going to take some like catastrophic losses. I hope you're okay. I honestly hope that you really thought about this ahead of time, and that whatever you possibly end up losing is worth taking these companies down. And to the hedge fund parasites that are eating your own faces right now, I hope you fucking choke. I hope you never recover from this. I hope they sell your furniture in the streets. Anyway, yeah, so that's how all of that worked. I hope it made sense. If it doesn't, feel free to hit me up with any questions. Because when those options...
Nice. So that's a good thread from Andre to kind of explain what's been happening here. Can link it here in the chat. Andy the Brave. Yeah, Andre's a really cool guy. Yeah. Andre's a guy that he was a pretty serious liberal just a couple years ago. He works for McLean's. When I was first starting my podcast, 49th Parahell, on episode 2, I reached out to Andre, and I was a nobody at this time. I mean, I'm still basically a nobody, but I reached out to Andre because I wanted to talk about the Canadian immigration system and our own immigration detention facilities, because we were talking so much about the United States. The immigration detention and the horrible family separation and stuff, and I wanted to look into what Canada's version of that is, which he's done some reporting on, or McLean's has done some reporting on. So he came onto my podcast, episode 2. We didn't know each other at all. I had a really much smaller platform at that time. Helped kind of give it an air of legitimacy, talking to me about that kind of stuff. I always really enjoyed talking to him. He's been on a couple of episodes since then. Yeah, and he's someone that's radicalized a lot over the last couple of years. It's pretty amazing. I think he's actually a member of the CPC now. Not the evil CPC, the good CPC, the Canadian Communist Party. Communist Party of Canada. That got fucked up the acronym. So Andre's a great guy. Always really appreciate talking to him. You know who else knows about this stuff is TouringNews on Twitch. I wonder what he's up to right now. Is he streaming right now? Should get him to call in. I'm pretty sure he's a money guy. Isn't TouringNews a money guy? Isn't he into that kind of stuff? Hey, 1 second. I'm gonna write to him. I don't know if this is gonna work. So who knows what's going to happen with that? He's in. It's actually illegal to start a CPUSA chapter in Oklahoma. Okay. I thought America was... Sometimes I'm like... I know in America, they often talk about being like free and stuff. And you have like freedom of speech, which I think includes the ability to start a political party or a chapter. So it seems sometimes when I hear news like that, I'm like, I don't know if that's really accurate. I just don't know if that's accurate. Okay. I'll put on some music again. Where sometimes I start looking at too much stuff and I get lost. Oh. That's kind of alarming. Thank you, Sebs, for hosting the stream. So we can continue to dive in on this. I think there's more. We can look at this more. I'm just finding a playlist to put on. By the way, everyone, I got to remind you, we're on YouTube now. The Rob Rousseau Show is on YouTube. Please, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's getting up there. It's getting up there in the subs. I'm getting close to like 500 subs there. And been taking a little bit of a clip from this show every episode, dumping it on YouTube. So please subscribe over there. Okay, video. Juche, I'm going to check out this video.
Are selling stock at a record pace to start the year. U.S. listed companies have conducted 80 follow-on stock.
Shit.
Companies are selling stock at a record pace to start the year. U.S. listed companies have conducted 80 follow-on stock offerings this year through Friday, raising $16 billion. There's all kinds of business happening today. The SPAC, the IPOs, all of this is just generating money. There's money flowing in from every single direction today. This is something that looks like it's going to accelerate far faster than it did in 2020, and that was unbelievable as it is.
Yeah,
Public companies have been taking advantage of a hot stock
there can
market
be only
by
one.
Issuing shares at a record pace in January. This is the chart just showing you right here money raised in follow-on offerings by U.S. listed companies each year through January 22nd. You could see right on the right-hand side, it's just way beyond, and that is just to give you a comparison. Last year, I believe, if that's 2020, was looking like it was about 7.5 billion, and
I don't want to say any more.
It's just unbelievable to see that it's gone more than double that at this point. And we are in a time of great uncertainty. So it doesn't seem to be stopping these companies because they're saying now is the time. Let's go IPO. Let's do this right here. They mentioned companies like Zoom and so on that nobody really even knows, how they generate revenue. Who cares? Who cares about revenue? You just buy in. It's a tech company. Just buy in. It has .com at the end of it. Just buy in. This is the market that we are in today. Left-hand side, you could see since U.S. election flows shifting to inflation assets, and that's commodities, real estate, and so on. Right-hand side over deflation assets, treasuries, U.S. large cap, and so on. So it's just broken down there if you're interested to check that out. I don't know what's going to occur, but I certainly know that there has been a rebalancing of portfolios over the last little while, and it's really been changing things, the landscape of the financial industry. Bank of America's bull and bear indicator, and you could see that it is heading very closely to the extremely bullish territory, which is a sell right now, sitting at 7.2. And we're talking about Bank of America here. This is not, some independent agency. This isn't no investment advice that showed extreme euphoria. We're talking about Bank of America. I mean, they're on the inside as it gets, and they're even saying right now, I mean, this is hot. This is getting into those levels,
critical BOFA levels,
and so on. Fed balance sheet to hit 42% of GDP. It's really ridiculous. Anyway, at this point, they have no intention on ever getting this under control. And the US budget deficit to hit 33% of GDP in 2021. We'll see what occurs. They expect that this is going to change at some point. We're going to get this. As long as we get the growth going, we're going to be doing just fine, but it never works out that way. Never has in history. I mentioned this on my Instagram, but you gotta look at this. GameStop mania fueled by record options and white knuckle shorts. This has been very important because a lot of the people who have been betting on the companies that are really taking all those shorts, like Tesla, for instance, those people have made the biggest gains. So you can actually, there's a strategy that's going on today that people are simply buying the most shorted stocks and have profited a great deal. I'm not telling anybody to do that. Look into that for yourself if you're interested, but that's something that I have noted, and this just gives you an idea of what's been happening. Michael Burry, the last time, the third quarter, I think, of 2020 on the 13F, Michael Burry's company was actually could stand to profit big time. If he's still holding, stands to profit big time from this particular stock right here. Here's a quote talking about the housing market, and it's very clear, it's obvious, no different than what we're seeing in stocks and so on. Homeowners are smiling because they're seeing prices increase. The frustration is coming from the first-time buyers who don't have any housing equity and they're trying to save up for a down payment. Today's market is unhealthy. People are making hurried decisions and prices are rising way above income growth. Absolutely 100% true. There's no way to deny this, but people just say, well, it's just going to go up forever. And that right there, of course, cannot be possible. There has to be something that changes. Maybe it flatlines. It could flatline for a period of time, but even if it were to flatline for 5 years, the wages still wouldn't grow to that level anyway. So we are in la la land. We're in unicorn territory, and I really don't know what's going to change at this point. I don't know how Europe is still standing, but here we are. I think one of the biggest problems is the interconnectedness of the banking system and how terrible the so-called assets or liabilities are for these banks. Mountain of small loans loom over
it's sick as hell.
Europe's hit banks.
Goddamn
banks
right, it's
have
sick.
outsized exposure to small businesses, the backbone of the continent's economy. If these businesses fail, pain awaits Europe's already stretched lenders. So the reason I mentioned this is because we're looking for a linchpin. We're looking for a reason why the market could pop. It could happen anywhere around the world, and it could happen for any particular reason. Nobody, I mean, other than just a small handful of people, expected that the subprime mortgage.
Turing, I just messaged you. I don't know if you got it. Do you feel like calling in and explaining some of this shit to us? No pressure if you don't feel like it. But I thought you might be a guy that could help break some of this shit down. Okay. I never thought epic Reddit moment could be said without irony. This truly is an epic Reddit moment. It truly is. Okay, let's watch the end of this. Turing, I think you're in the Discord already, right? I'm pretty sure you are because you've called in before.
Mortgage market in the United States would create a financial collapse that we hadn't seen for nearly 100 years. Nobody, okay? And then today you look back, oh yeah, it was obvious. I saw that happen. Yeah, that'll never happen again. And nothing was resolved. The SEC, they watched it all happen. They made it happen. You look at the rating agencies, completely and entirely complicit. They made this happen. You look at the financial companies, all turned a blind eye to the fraud. And you don't think that's going on today on every other level, whether
It
it's
absolutely
the stock market,
is.
whether
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the bond market, whether it's happening with the manipulation of precious metals. Look at the real estate. It's happening on
100%
all territories
bullshit.
and all areas in every sector. Let's wake up.
Damn. Yeah, that was a pretty good video. The Money GPS. Okay. What happens when okay, the title stayed the same. Cool. Very nice. So we're going to talk to TouringNews. We're going to talk to TouringNews about this. He knows about like money and like numbers and stuff. Not me. Not me personally. I know nothing about that and it makes me scared and intimidated. I think Lodane's just sound checking him. Shrink that a little bit. Okay. Hey, TouringNews, are you there?
Oh, hey, good day to you. Yes, thanks for having me.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Of course, yeah. It was. I liked how you were watching Q's videos. I think that they were good TikToks, and then it was good to go into the video that you did there. There was a lot. There's a lot in that video that they spoke about as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me. I don't have a huge grip on this stuff. Like my brain, when I try to process numbers and stuff, I immediately just like start shutting down. But
so go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, so that's why I'm happy to have these kind of explainers, and I'm happy to have you come on and talk about this stuff.
Oh, I think that you know a lot about it as well as I do. There was an interesting that he said to me in the video that it sounded like he mentioned that there has been a trading strategy of just going around and buying the most shorted companies. Now, he told people to like think about if you want to do this in the future. I have no desire to talk to people about what they should or shouldn't do. But the way that he spoke about that, it seems to me that what the Wall Street's Bets people have done is they might have amassed enough cocky people together that they have scoured the internet to look for small market cap companies that have a massive short position against them and just drive them into a crazy short squeeze. It seems like they might have done it with Eastman Kodak today. If you look up KOSS stock, that one...
KOSS.
Yeah, it might have been going on with Nokia a little bit, like maybe Ericsson. There have been a couple examples of... and Q really went through it. How did they figure out who has been shorted? You can go through positions to find like total outstanding short. And like Wall Street Bets sounds like it has like 2 million to 2.8 million people active on its Reddit thing. And with like, look at what your community can do, Rob, with 98 people if you wanted to figure something out.
Yeah.
Like, imagine taking the brain power of like our community, which like it's massive. But now we're ratcheting this up to like 2 million with upvotes and downvotes and so forth.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I've been feeling for a while, and I think the video we just watched now, and this kind of weird shit that's happening at the moment, doesn't it feel like, I don't know, I feel like I felt this way before, so maybe I'm being paranoid, but doesn't it kind of feel like this house of cards is getting like sketchier and sketchier and less stable? And it just seems like we're so close to be on the verge of this whole thing just finally fucking collapsing.
That's a heavy question.
Yeah.
If you look at the fundamentals and actually look at asset flow shifts, like he was talking about how like there seems to be money moving from like one area of a portfolio to another area afterwards and so forth, and you look at these like massive things, I mean, yeah, you can very much agree with you. I think that even like yes, but like we don't want that to happen at all.
No, but I think something that is very instructive that's happening now is people are kind of it's bringing this kind of contradiction right to the forefront. and we're seeing how ridiculous the whole thing is, and how like the value, the stock value of these companies has no connection to like what the actual company is doing or like how the company is doing. It's completely unmoored from like any actual material reality that's happening, and that's becoming more and more clear to everybody.
I might give a slight different, that there has just been another reality layer added on top of it, which is just like there's, but that, I don't know if that explains like well what I'm trying to articulate. Now that things have become memes, eventually memes were going to make it to markets, and I think that they've been there for a while. This is probably just like the biggest that it ever like made it through.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, I mean, it is completely untethered from anything. But
Yeah.
I did want to just like add in that like there's been a new monster that has become of it. I find these things absolutely fascinating. It makes me think of, did I ever link the video to you from Yanis Varoufakis about debt striking from his book Another Now?
No, but I'd be interested. I love hearing Yanis Varoufakis talk about this kind of stuff. So I'd be interested in seeing it.
Would you like me to give like a 60-second quick run
Yeah,
through
please
of it?
do. Yeah.
So Varoufakis wrote Another Now, which is an alternate reality to what happened during and after the global financial crisis, where a group of people who were like derivatives traders within a couple of like hedge funds or big banks or so forth were like, okay, this stuff is wrong. And they began to like try to get on the side of the people who had a bunch of debt. So they told everybody, don't pay your electric bills, don't pay your water bills. We're going to make like a huge union, and we're like, our debts are their assets because like they need our money. So they started to like crash, like, you know, sector by sector because like since everything became privatized, they ended up needing our money. And if we don't give them our money, well, then what are they going to do? And they kind of tried to show like what you could do by doing like a debt strike. It as I watched these like Wall Street bet trader kids do this kind of thing, they're doing the opposite of what a debt strike would be. You know, they're loading into it reminds me of taking Varoufakis's idea, warping it, bastardizing it, and implementing it to like something else that crowdsourcing can do. They've figured out a way to get around SEC regulations of like manipulating inequity, because like they're all a bunch of herd people on Twitter, you know, saying like, hey, you should do this or do that. And I think that there's a lot of lessons to be learned from the power of crowds, to me, from this that I'm like trying to take.
Yeah. But so are they going to shut this down though? Because I feel like they're already taking steps to ensure that normies can't manipulate the market in this way. And thanks for talking about manipulating the market. Thanks for the tier 1, Curtis Morrison. Like, do you think that's is this like a flash in the pan? Is this some kind of new sign of a new way of doing things, a new way for like average people to manipulate this kind of stuff? Or now that they see that like regular folks are profiting from this, are they going to jump in and try and shut it down as quickly as possible?
I think all of the above. I think they're going to come in and they're going to try to figure something out to do, but it's, are you going to go through, can you not tweet about like stocks? Can you not like send messages in like a Discord? Yeah. Like, you know, yeah, they are going to do, you know, different things. I've watched, do you mind if I mention another streamer that I've seen on Twitch before?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, go for it.
I've watched a streamer called The Stock Guy for, I don't know. Yeah, maybe like a year and a half or 2 years. I gotta check on his channel maybe like once a week or something. But he has built a community of people who trust one another, who work together, and they kind of talk about stocks, you know, all of the time. Well, now, I mean, he's doing it. Today is probably like a huge day for him. But they are kind of like if you want a little kind of like semi-introspective look into what like the Wall Street bets like type things are doing, you know, it's people have found the power of getting a lot of people together to do all this kind of manipulative stuff. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So do you know where the next? So what was happening today? So there's AMC that they're blowing up, and there was, I think Q mentioned a bunch of these. There's like AMC, there's Bed Bath & Beyond, Nokia. It's all these old.
Ericsson, did you look at costs? Bring up costs on the screen. It's insane.
Okay.
I'm
going to try and figure out how to do that. One sec. I'm sure I can figure this out. KOSS?
Yeah. Eastman Kodak. the graph might not look as impressive, but like if you look at my goodness, these people are doing insane things. Well, it's actually up 237% today.
237. Yeah, okay, so 17 hours ago is 131%.
Yeah, right now it's 237%.
Okay. That's amazing. Yeah.
They're driving these hedge funds to cover their short squeezes, which let's just say that there are emotions within my body.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's like people are framing this as like some kind of revolution or some like trying to redistribute funds to
no,
and
it's not.
and yeah, it doesn't seem like that's what it is, but you can certainly take solace in the fact that these Wall Street vampire guys are getting rinsed on this, right?
Yeah, there's definitely some joy. Yeah, there's definitely some joy in watching hedge funds that short companies, which basically means like they're betting against them and trying to like at best drive their value down, at most probably drive them out of business. Yeah, it's nice to see a little bit of pain on their balance sheets for sure.
Yeah. Okay, what tradingview.com. Because yeah, like you were pointing out, it's not in terms oh Jesus Christ. Yeah, okay, that's hilarious. It's amazing. And like
you brought up costs. So yeah, look at it from like 5 days ago.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean
that's I'm pretty sure that's good if you bought here. I don't know a lot about stocks, but if you bought here, say, and it goes up there, you did okay. You did okay on that one.
And so these people are doing what Q was talking about, and they're like buying options too.
Yeah.
So they're getting in at like 100 for every dollar they're putting in. They're getting a lot. They're doing well. Okay. Millionaires have been made. A lot of them.
Yeah. Okay. So, and other people in the chat earlier were trying to explain this to me. Here's something that I don't quite get, which is like if you buy stock in like what's essentially a worthless company like GameStop, and you artificially inflate that stock price to like an obscene amount, are you guaranteed to have a buyer for that? People have said yes, but I still don't really quite grasp how that works. Like, if you're going to sell this artificially inflated stock for a company that people know is worthless, is there a guaranteed buyer for that stock if you want to sell it?
Well, okay, so once any item is like deemed to have some type of value, there will be a point that a person will buy it, and there will be a point that a person will sell it. So it manifests into such a position within reality that it's created enough FOMO, either on the way up or on the way down, that somewhere people are going to want to dive back in. Okay. Now, like, can there be a day where there is no demand? Okay, yes. If we get to that point, we've got some problems. Like, if you're, I guess, like, okay, so you and I spoke once about the treasuries market in March, correct? About
yes.
United States. So on that day, the United States, basically, in my opinion, the United States Treasury market absolutely broke. There was no way to value treasuries on that day. It was the closest, and yeah, it was one of the closest times that it ever came to what you're asking about. Because to try to like quickly explain, in my opinion, what happened. Again, everybody, fact check all this stuff. It's quite complicated. Yeah, in my opinion, as the entire global equities market collapsed and crashed down, everybody needed to fill their coffers or so forth. And the easiest thing for all of them to sell was United States treasuries, the 10-year or the 30-year. But because the entire planet was trying to liquidate them all at once, there was no bid for them. So there was too much on offer and no bid, which meant it couldn't really be valued. And that was the time that the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States bought $500 billion worth of United States treasuries in order to basically like reshock the body. It was basically like it was dead, and then they put the chest bumpers on it, and then they brought it back to life. And then they bought like another 800 billion over the next like 3 weeks, and that was what stabilized kind of like the global financial system, in my opinion.
Which they just like invented like out of thin air, basically, with that money.
Well, yeah. So any of the money that the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States creates like deposit shift into the primary dealer bank account. There's 24 primary dealers. This part is a fact. There's 24 primary dealers that have to buy the treasuries that get issued by the United States government every time that there's an issuance. Typically, they sell those treasuries into the secondary market, which is, either your 401k, your pension, a sovereign balance sheet, a central bank of another nation, or so forth. But when there was this problem, they just took $500 billion worth of treasuries off of the accounts of the primary dealers, and they injected reserves for those primary dealers with the Federal Reserve Bank. And I guess technically those reserves, well, that gets to be a whole nother thing of what they are.
Yeah. And okay, so we didn't talk about this in March because I wasn't streaming at that time, but I think we talked about this
at some other point about
in November
March.
About when that happened. Yeah. Because that was really a moment in March when it felt like, oh shit, this is happening here. Like the whole thing's falling apart. And they kind of somehow saved it. But don't they call that isn't that like the dead cat bounce or something like that? Like eventually it feels like that's going to end up coming back to haunt them, or it's going to come back down to Earth, or did they really save that?
I mean, if you'd like to continue, I've stared into this beast for a long time and I have my opinions. We can keep going as much as you want to. I'm very happy to. I just wanted to put that out there. Like it gets really complicated, and I do have like a pretty strong opinion about how it's kind of going. But
I'm interested to hear it. I mean, yeah, I'm interested to hear it. We got another couple minutes here. I think we can get into this. So if you've got a strong opinion on it, I want to hear about it, because I know nothing about this, nothing at all, except that I have a vague understanding that it's all complete kind of arbitrary bullshit. That's kind of the extent of how much I understand this, which is why I need to talk to people like you about it.
I kind of like try to pay attention to it because like, in some roundabout way, in my opinion, it'll eventually affect it affects our rents. It affects college prices. Like even though these things don't matter to us in like the day to day, they kind of matter like the month to month or the year to year or something. To me, it seems like that there's not going to be there's just going to be a lot more expansion of the Federal Reserve balance sheet because there isn't enough demand for the further issuances of treasuries that are going to be out there. Oh boy. It's really complicated right now, and they're not in a way that they can do much to do it. Interest rates on treasuries are kind of going upwards over. If you look at the 10-year treasury or the 30-year treasury, they've kind of consistently gone up over the past couple months, and they're at some like pretty decent levels. But it seems that they're continuing to go up because, for whatever reason, people are beginning to disbelieve in the value of the United States dollar. You have a lot of media talk about inflation. You have like a lot of fear mongering from different sides about they just want to give you everything for free and so forth. So there you go. You can. Is this the? Yeah.
This is GameStop here. This is Bed Bath and Beyond.
Oh wow, they're both having good times.
Yeah. Yes.
What
was the other one? There's BlackBerry. Yeah, you can continue.
I'm sorry that I'm being complex. I'm trying to make it make sense.
No, it's I really enjoy hearing your perspective on this stuff, even though I don't totally grasp everything, but I'm sure someone's getting something out of it in the chat.
Yeah, it seems that the United States has lost a decent amount of the value of its currency over the past year. It's gone down maybe 10% against the basket of currencies internationally. And when you have that going down and your yields on your 10-year or 30-year notes going up, those are usually signs of people thinking that it's a little bit riskier to be involved with with your currency or with the payments on the currency over time.
Yeah.
And internationally, that usually means if your currency devalues, you can have more exports, because it's going to be cheaper for foreign nations to buy your goods. In my opinion, however, the United States doesn't have any goods to sell. So,
they took care of that in the 80s and 90s, right, with outsourcing their whole manufacturing base to China and Bangladesh and all these other Central South America and all these places, right?
Yeah.
Except for weapons, which they still have quite a lot of.
Right, but you can only, how many weapons jobs do you really get out of that too?
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot of like really rockiness around the United States like dollar at the moment, and this is kind of leading to some of these other, we could probably call this a black swan event. I mean, these could be black swan events, like that people have figured out how to do things like this. But it was, the other thing that was interesting in that video was how he talked about like home prices keep going up, healthcare costs keep going up, college costs keep going up. Those are just not good things when your wages are never going up. And there's an index called the Chapwood Index. I think that the people in the United States are losing purchasing power of their dollar faster and faster than what other people would maybe say there is, or what the CPI says inflation would be. To me, the way that I look around and like try to understand this stuff, it seems like there's if you don't have a bunch of money right now, man, I'm trying to figure out like how people can get themselves ahead. If you don't, yeah, it seems tough in the United States.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned that, like, that's such an interesting phenomenon too, because people are saying, like, accurately pointing out cost of living is going up, home prices, healthcare, all these things. But any talk of raising wages to get to match this gets poo-pooed and gets shot down by people that say, like, well, what, do you want there to be inflation? Do you want, like, but it's like, this is already occurring. It's like, so it's amazing.
Even Bernie Sanders trying to get the $15 minimum wage, I think he wants to do it over like 4 years.
Yeah.
It's not going to be tomorrow we go from where we're at to 15, which is going to continue to just leave people behind. I've told, I don't know, these things seem really rough and bleak to me. I'm kind of like you, where it does seem that the it seems that I'll let you go. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. So if you got to get going, that's fine. But thanks. I can stay. I can literally stay here the whole day. I mean, I'll talk about this until the sun rises tomorrow. It doesn't matter to me. But it's concerning what some of the signs are.
Yeah. Well, and that's so another big thing about that too is you mentioned like the purchasing power of the U.S. dollar is going down, and that's one thing we've talked about China a little bit as well, where they're starting to move people in different parts of the world off the US dollar, which is also leading to the fluctuation. It's also leading to you see why people in the US, the national security establishment, are pushing hard back against that, because that's a central element of like why they're feeling threatened right now, because China's helping push parts of the world in that direction, right?
Yes. Let me see if I can kind of say something to Orbitron's comment here, and like Gianibus, and to what you said and so forth. It's I live in the United States, so how do I want to put it? The world is sorry, Rob. I know that I'm trying to like get something to you here.
No problem. We got all day.
We do. Well, to me, it's going to be interesting if the United States is used less and less as the currency. United States dollar is used less and less as the currency. There are things that Europe is beginning to lead on, and there are things that other nations are leading on, and the dollar is a bit archaic. If the United States doesn't do so well, there will be other places around the world that are going to benefit from this because of them being able to better do their renewables, them better being able to invest in their nations and so forth. So it's weird when you live in one country and like you think about the whole planet, because sometimes people in the U.S. and the way that we're talking about this, people are kind of only thinking at it from a U.S. centric perspective.
Yeah, and I know this is something you try to push back on as well, right?
Yeah, I think so. Because, and it's also, man, it's really weird. The hardest thing about voting in the United States is, I don't exactly maybe talk about this one like as often as you voting for the planet and voting for your country really don't often align. It really even like being like an activist, like they don't exactly like align all the time either. And there's a lot of contradictions kind of required in the US like centric perspective of like, we need to improve some stuff here for our citizens, but like we also need to do a lot of improvement for other places that we've hampered and hurt. And it doesn't always exactly work to do both at the same time, which makes the U.S. like politics difficult and makes this kind of money stuff difficult, because if certain things happen against the dollar, it's probably good for Europe, it's probably good for India, China, a lot of developing nations within Africa, probably good for other places as well.
Yeah.
So,
well, because I remember the last time we spoke too, we talked about like the famous Bernanke quote that I'm obsessed with about changing the number in the computer, and about how if we're going to talk about that in terms of like helping average people in the United States or Canada or anywhere in the West, part of those numbers that need to be changed also is like the foreign debt that we've used to like economically enslave a lot of these other countries. I
just listened to a video the other day that said the quote developed nations of the world spent like 20 to 30% stimulus into their economies this year, but emerging markets only did 0 to 6%, which kind of gets back to that talk that you and I have had, where like only certain places can do as much deficit spending as they do. Yeah,
it's just literally not an option for them.
Correct. Yeah, and that's what keeps me awake at night, is like we can keep dumping money into like the US, but like we're fixing potholes over here. Like, if we're not even giving people healthcare at a minimum, what are we doing? We're bailing water out of a ship rather than fixing the ship.
Yeah.
Type stuff.
Yeah. And that's another interesting thing about China's strategy with this respect, with these like developing nations, the fact that they're like investing in these nations and not like demanding at gunpoint a return on their investment, but like understanding that making the investment is like beneficial to everyone in the first place.
Yes. I'm only gonna say one shifty thing that they did. I usually say, well, here's how I say it. Belt and Road is by far better anything that the United States, the European Union, the IMF, or the World Bank ever offered. Full stop. They've never offered anything near this good. The one shifty thing that the Chinese seem to have done, though, that I've been looking into lately is they wrote a lot of the debts that have to be paid back in dollars, because they need dollars still.
Okay.
So it's interesting that foreign banks are allowed to issue loans that require repayment in United States dollars. It's like this is where you get into the euro dollar and kind of like the international like shadow banking system. But this is where, in my opinion, there's been a lot more debt that needs to be repaid in the United States dollar than really exists out there. And that gets into another weird like topic type thing.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean about that being crafty by them? I applaud them for it.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah, it is. No, that is interesting though. So I don't know. I guess that's just, I just feel like we're seeing more and more signs of the instability of this whole thing. And it seems like this is such a stark example of it. The fact that like it's being so openly manipulated, but you really do have to laugh at like the hypocrisy of people like wringing their hands about this, the whole like meme stock thing of like, can you believe they're like openly manipulating the market, and like they're just treating it like this casino, and like literally describing like what these hedge fund managers do every single day, like with countless people's lives in the balance. So it's just funny that once this is starting to get thrown back in their faces, that they're like describing exactly like what they base their whole careers off of. But they're like, no, not like this though. When you do it this way, no, I don't like it. But
right. Generally,
when we're doing this shit every single day, and like the destroying companies like the Toys R Us thing or whatever, like and these kind of vampiric hedge funds going in and profiting off of these like intentionally bankrupting these companies and forcing hundreds of thousands of people into losing their jobs, losing their livelihoods, and then profiting from it. This is like a reverse situation of that, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, now we don't like it. And whereas the workers of Toys R Us did not get a bailout, these hedge fund guys are kind of look like they're expecting that if they lose their big $1 billion investment, which was a risk. It was a calculated risk that they apparently knew about, but they're going to be expected to be bailed out from this in a way that like their victims are not.
Yes, yeah, it's basically each of these is like a short against a hedge fund. Is kind of the way that I look at it. Like for every line that goes up that you can find, I know that there's a line on a hedge fund out there that went down.
Yeah.
in opposite correlation, and that gives me a little giggle and a chuckle.
Yeah.
This was basically them shorting certain hedge funds in a way.
And is this going to just turn into, because right now it's kind of like a average Joe's versus hedge fund guys. Is this just going to turn into a way for like once like are other hedge funds just going to start getting in on this now and kind of going at it and trying to kind of do the same thing artificially, or is it going to stay this way, you think?
I mean, they may try to, but it's tougher to move around those big amounts of money that hedge funds would have to do to get involved at the level of like a bunch of quote Main Street investors doing it.
Yeah.
Because like you need all of the different movement, I would say.
Okay.
It's kind of like here's maybe how I would explain it. Okay, let's call the hedge funds, let's equate them to the people that got into the United States Capitol. You need the crowd to be there to blend in with the crowd.
Okay.
So if there's not a big like crowded trade, the hedge funds wouldn't be able to get in with it because like they can't get the amount of like purchases required. It would look fishy.
Okay. On that subject, I was watching some of your footage from that the day of we were watching it here on the stream. I'm glad you made it out without that was something terrible happening.
You ever go through like things in your life where you realize you're just not the same person that you were before?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was one of them where I realized that something me being like a witness to it or like within it, but I also watched it through Twitch and like I watched it with people. I knew my mother was watching like at one point. There was all kinds of stuff going. It was just like I don't know. I went in one person and came back out a little bit of a different one, and I haven't figured out the change yet. But
something.
Yeah, it was something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Touring, I really appreciate the work you do on this stuff. I'm happy you were able to come on and explain some of it to me and the community.
I appreciate it. I didn't call in earlier because I literally just had my internet installed about like 45 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, no problem.
I'm just hooking all my stuff back up.
No problem. I'm happy you were able to jump in though. This is really cool to talk to you about this stuff. You want to plug your channel?
Yeah, if anybody wants to hang out with me, it's twitch.tv/TouringNews or TouringNews1 on YouTube. I read a lot about just like long financial papers or like white papers and so forth. So yeah, this is kind of like some of the stuff that I cover and try to look through an international perspective as well on like foreign news.
Yeah.
Broadcasting from Pennsylvania, United States.
I'm going to find you on YouTube as well because I'm sure you've got some good YouTube stuff. I wasn't aware you were on there.
I don't. I just spoke to a person about like how can I, now that I'm like in my final thing to end on, and then you can get back to everything you're doing. I'm actually trying to go learn how to be like an organic soil worker this year. I'm trying to find like a couple woofing projects. Taking the stream on the road, still doing like the broadcasting and everything.
It's probably a good project now to get involved with. It's probably going to come in handy probably in 10 or 15 years, I imagine.
Well, I'm looking to, I want to get like some land for myself and just like a place that I know that I'll have like, I have like my internet all the time. I'll have this all the time, have some food all the time and so forth. So I am actually trying to take this year to gain some skills to be able to figure this kind of stuff out.
That sounds good. You're going to have your Tim Pool compound.
Well, jeez.
If only.
I made my announcement. I think I made my announcement before he did.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's interesting when things like this happen, and then you ask a question like, "Is this the sign of like these times or whatever?" I've been. It's an interesting world out there right now.
Yes,
and,
it is.
We gotta protect like our families, ourselves, our communities, and resiliency is a good thing to build. Redundancy is a good thing to build. Community is a good thing to build. I've never been fortunate enough to live in a place for more than like a year or so. Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm looking to begin doing.
Cool. Well, we look forward to following you along your journey.
Oh, wow.
And thank you once again for calling in and helping to break this stuff down. It's really interesting. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And you're welcome back anytime, sir.
Yeah, let's keep in touch a little better now that I'm like in a fixed place. I'm always happy to.
All right, great. Well, thanks again. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Yep. Twitch Prime.
Touring News, everybody. Thank you, Touring News. It's a wild time out here right now, and it's very surreal to be covering this every single week here on Twitch. But I really do appreciate the work that he does, breaking the stuff down. What is this tweet? Oh, fuck, I still haven't done my tweet. You're right. I'm doing okay in the viewers, so whatever. I'm not going to repeat the tweet because it's kind of getting into like slur territory there. No, I don't want to take my trading to the next level. No, no, no. But I can't. What is this? Can't get rid of this little bubble now? I don't want to join. I do not want to join. Maybe we need to look at... Somebody is explaining the GameStop thing to Joe Biden right this moment.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Hey, King Uendo, thank you very much. 5 gifted subs from King Uendo. Thank you, sir.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob
Hype.
to talk you through all this.
If someone contributes some bits, we might get some... we might get a hype train going, everybody.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old
There's
Rob
a stock
to,
market
talk you through
hype
all
train,
this.
and now we could get our own kind of fake hype train going here as well.
Count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Get in early on the hype trains.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you very much, King Uendo. I appreciate that. There was someone that was trying to own me, I think, a while back. And believe me, I have not forgotten. I have not forgotten. Is Loonstar? Loonstar, are you still here? Do you want to get into this, Loonstar? Don't think I didn't see that snarky comment you left, sir.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
This is a test bit alert.
Thank you, Lodane. And thank you, Continental Psyop, as well.
Use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Look at this, folks. It is a perfect bit alert for today. That's right. We've got an artificial bubble. We're writing on Cocktail Napkin. Rob Economy. Who wants to contribute to this artificial bubble that we're creating here? There's actually one thing, like when we were talking there, I was like, damn, what can you do with just a small community? Maybe we should get like a rain energy bubble. Can we create like an artificial rain energy bubble? Could we do that? Could we like become millionaires trading on rain energy stocks?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Average Scum, for gifting a sub as well. Well, let's check out the rain energy stock price. Maybe this is something we could do as like a community. Oh, wait, shit. Hold on. Rain. Is it a publicly traded company? I don't see it. Or is it part of Monster? Is it part of the Monster Beverage Corporation? See, we could have bought shares of Monster down here in in March when everything was crashing. Look, this was when Monster was riding high. I don't know where my mouse is supposed to be for you to see this. Monster was riding high up there in February. Then the pandemic started. You see the line went down. The line went all the way down to 50. That was the time. That was the time to purchase shares of Monster Beverage Corp. Because that was March 20th. That was right when they started dumping in those trillions of dollars into the market. And look at that. It was 51.29.
We simply
March 23rd.
use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Thank you, Blueberry. And that's right. Who will think of the hedge fund managers? They're struggling out there. So that Monster Beverage Corp, that's up almost $50. We could have made a killing if we were streaming back there in March. We could have done this. Prediction: our $2,000 in bracket $1,400 checks will now be used to bail out the hedge funds. It's funny because, like, I always imagine, like, when certain things happen in America, like, oh, now this will be the final straw for people to realize how badly fucked they're getting, and certainly they're going to rise up and start overthrowing, start burning down. Well, not that I would ever advocate for that, or, start, messing shit up. And I feel like that would be one of those times. To me, this pandemic is as much of a time as any. The fact that there's been this pandemic when so many people have lost their whole livelihoods, and then you see the line for hedge fund managers, and like the wealthiest people have made like trillions of dollars in this. I mean, that should be as much evidence as you need that this is all fake and it's all complete bullshit. So you'd think that would be enough for people in the United States or elsewhere or anywhere else to start just like messing shit up. But it's like, if it hasn't happened now, I don't know when it's ever going to happen. Like, there's never been a better time.
Count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you for the tier 1 syntax. We're 25% into level 3, everybody. Can you imagine the hype that I'm experiencing right now? I've got chills. Immediately means at least 1 week for pros, but the hedge fund pigs get the money literally immediately. Oh, of course, because as we've gone over time and time again, it's as simple as just like changing the fucking numbers in the computer. They just need to go into your bank account and just add a $2,000 into the spreadsheet, and it's finished. That's what they're going to do for the hedge fund guys. Hey, Don Dark Zony. That's what they're going to do for the hedge fund guys, right? When they lose billions of dollars getting screwed over by like Reddit nerds, they're going to be like, "Oh, sir, I'm so sorry that you were inconvenienced, sir. Here, let us change the numbers in your computer back to where it was before."
Use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
That's exactly what they're going to say to the hedge fund guys. Thank you, Giannivis, for the 200 bits. That's what they're going to say to the hedge fund guys. We're just going to change those numbers. I'm so sorry how inconvenienced you were by the Reddit nerds. We'll never let this happen again. We'll change your numbers back to where they were. We'll make new laws and new regulations to ensure that the plebeians cannot get in on this action in the way that they have been. Disgusting. The disgusting, filthy civilians have been Can you believe they've been profiting from the stock market? Ugh, it makes me sick. We're gonna change those numbers back right away, sir. But then when it comes to giving you, my American viewers, when it comes to giving you $2,000 in stimmy checks, or now that's been negotiated down to $1,400, they're going to means test that a little more. Biden's already talking about how he wants to means test that even more to ensure that there's no one that does that. These go to as little people as possible. And then, it's going to come March, April, who knows? Maybe it'll come in the summer. Whatever. It'll get there eventually, or not. Or not. It's memes testing. That's exactly what it is. But that's it. They don't treat you the same way. They don't treat you the same way that they treat these hedge fund fucking losers. The only safe place for your money is subscribing to Rob. I mean, at least you're guaranteed access to... I'm using neoliberal speak. You get access to content. I'm trying to increase everyone's access to top quality streaming content. That's what we're working on here. I'm giving a means tested access to affordable content. Not universal, to be clear. Not universal.